Hi, everyone. I'm going to be talking to you today about what to do if you're stuck in the express entry pool. Okay, so this is mainly geared towards those people who are in Canada at the moment on a work permit and are realizing that they don't yet have an invitation to apply. So what I'm going to be talking to you about very briefly today, the overview is going to be what's going on with express entry, what we're anticipating in 2022, keeping your profile up to date. What are your other PR options, and also maintaining or changing your status. Okay, so it's important that you take action to make sure that you keep your status in Canada. So, sorry, I'm just changing my slide. So the first thing is what's happening right now with express entry. So as many of you know, because you're all watching what's happening with the draws, since September 15th, 2021, there's been 10 straight draws for provincial nominee applicants only. Okay, there has not been a Canadian experience class draw since September 14th, 2021. And incredibly, there has not been a federal skilled worker draw since December 23rd, 2020. Okay, when there was an all program draw. With regards to federal skilled trades class, there hasn't been a specific draw for them since August 2020. Okay, so the main issue we have right now is really for those people who are in Canada, who were anticipating getting an invitation, from September onwards last year and have not got it and may find themselves now in the position of their work permit expiring. So what are we anticipating in 2022? Well, I mean, the reason really for this video and for the webinar that I did last night is because there was some information that came to light recently with regards to potential plans, okay? And so we're aware that there may be certain things that will happen in 2022. For example, there's a possibility there may not be any draws for the Canadian experience class federal skilled worker until the middle of 2022. Okay, so obviously this is not confirmed, but it is a possibility. And this is really because there is a huge backlog of applications, okay, with Immigration Canada. I mean, you'll realize that last year immigration still met their target of 401,000, which was amazing. And the target for this year in 2022 is 411,000. Something quite different happened last year, obviously, besides the pandemic, is that immigration introduced what's called the temporary residency to PR, to permanent residency pathway. And if you look at those numbers, that accounted for 84,000 applications. Okay, so all of those applications are still, went through the processing. And so what that meant is that other applications were perhaps put aside. So what this means basically is there's still a backlog of applicants. Okay, so we're still waiting for all of those to be processed. And one of the ways that immigration can keep this backlog down is basically by putting draws on hold. So there's this temporary pause at the moment, okay? One other thing that came up is that there could be increased processing times for federal skilled worker applicants. Now, bear in mind, these are normally outside of Canada, okay? And due to the fact that there's so many applicants already in the pool with high scores, we're looking at perhaps a CRS score of being around or even over 500, okay? Again, none of this is for sure. We're still waiting to find out what will happen. Something that came up very recently is perhaps there could be occupation lists that are introduced. Now, this is definitely something that's happened in the past. And so this could happen. And what this will do is it'll allow the government really to be able to target those occupations that are really in need in Canada. Okay, so all we can do right now is watch this space and let's see what happens in the future with regards to draws under express entry. So if you're already in the pool, what you should do is make sure that you keep your profile up to date. Okay, so if you change jobs, if you change your civil status, for example, you get married, or if you leave Canada, you must change that. Okay, so that your profile is always going to be accurate and up to date. You need to make sure that your language test stays valid. Bear in mind, they're only valid for 2 years. If yours is looking to or is going to expire soon, then you should retake the test and enter your new scores. Okay. One thing to bear in mind is that, if you're currently working in Canada, if you reach a milestone with regards to your employment, i.e. you reach the 2 years, then that will automatically be updated within the system, okay? And you'll be allocated extra points. Of course, your age is going to change too. So as you get older, your points may drop again, depending on your age, okay? Now, do remember that after your profile has been in the express entry pool for 1 year, it will expire. Okay, so what that means is that you will need to make sure you resubmit your profile. Of course, you'll get notification through your portal so that you will know that your Express Entry profile has expired and you can then resubmit a new one. Okay. What can you do whilst you're waiting? Is there a way to increase your points? Absolutely. You know, perhaps you didn't get, you know, the full marks in your language test. Redo it, submit the new points. If it's going to give you those few extra points, it may be worth it, okay? Because really, sometimes 1 or 2 points is all it takes for you to be able to get that invitation to apply if it pushes you over that threshold of points. If you speak any French, improve it, do a test, okay? Submit the results. The reason being is that there's so many more benefits. If you do speak French, it's going to be bonus points. It could even give you an opportunity to apply, let's say, under the French speaking skilled worker stream in the Ontario Provincial Nominee Program. Okay, so it really is a good idea if you speak any French to improve it and or take a test. Okay, if you already have a 3-year degree, then maybe you could look at doing a shorter, you know, a diploma or certificate to add to that degree, and then you could get some extra points. Okay, bear in mind though, of course, if you're in Canada on a work permit, you must make sure you adhere to the conditions of your permit. Okay, so you cannot study, you cannot do a course that's longer than 6 months, full duration, okay, on a work permit. So you do need to make sure that you adhere to the conditions of your permit. Of course, you're going to be working in skilled employment in Canada. Make sure you keep working in skilled employment. Okay, you want to make sure that you're going to be able to claim all of that work experience. What are your other permanent residency options? So you're going to hear a lot of talk about provincial nominee programs. I'm not going to go into them in detail here, okay? There's far too much detail. Obviously, we have all the provinces and territories. You can look into each of those individually because it is going to depend on where you are residing, okay? So you can, when you go and look at the province for where you are living, you should look to see, because there's generally 2 streams. There's an Express Entry stream, and then there's like the usual, we call the usual nominee stream. Okay, so if possible, try and go through the Express Entry stream, because that is what's going to give you extra points, those magical 600 points that will then be added to your profile. Okay, if you go through one of the regular streams, you'll still get a nomination. You will still be able to apply for permanent residency, but it's not through the Express Entry stream. So it's a bit longer. So, well, it's quite a bit longer, really. It's right now, immigration are quoting 15 to 19 months just for the permanent residency portion. Okay, prior to that, the most PNPs take between 1 and 3 months for you to be issued with a nomination. Okay, so this is an extra step. So what it does, it's allowing you to then submit a permanent residency application because you have been nominated by one of the provinces. Okay, so provinces are given a certain allocation of nominations whereby they can identify applicants that they know are going to be beneficial to their province. So they're generally occupation related. Okay, so if you look at, you know, numerous of them have tech programs. So have a look and see what province works best for you. And again, it's generally where you're currently residing and working. Okay, there are normally fees, so just be aware of that. Okay, others can come through Quebec. Okay, it's a bit different from the regular PNP program because Quebec does have its own immigration program. You can get a certificate of selection. Okay, and then this must go through Immigration Quebec. Sorry, there's a little typo on that slide there. The other option is the Atlantic Immigration Program. This has now been made a permanent program. You do need a job offer from a designated employer in New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, PEI, or Newfoundland, Labrador. Okay, and you can then, once you get the nomination, then you can submit a permanent residency application. Because it's just become a permanent program, this will only be starting after the beginning of March. Perhaps you have a Canadian spouse. Okay, so if you are married to a Canadian, or you're in a common law relationship with a Canadian, by common law, I mean you have lived together in a marital style relationship for at least the past 12 months, then it's highly likely that they are going to be able to sponsor you. Okay, so again, you do have to prove the relationship, you have to prove you're married, you have to prove the common law relationship, and this is with documentation, and you can then submit the application. Currently, they're taking about 12 months to process. The huge benefit, because you're in Canada, I'm only talking right now about in Canada spousal sponsorship applications. The benefit is that you can also apply for a spousal open work permit application. Okay, so if you were to file this application whilst you are still in status on your work permit, and you absolutely make sure you include the spousal open work permit application. With the spousal application, then you can take advantage of implied status and continue working in Canada as per the conditions of your current permit until the work permit is received. What about maintaining or changing status? Okay, so how can you stay in Canada? So what do you do if your work permit is running out? The first thing is that it's very important to realize that nothing is automatic. Okay, so you really need to make sure that you take action to make sure that you do not lose status in Canada, either by maintaining it, okay, and implied status is now called maintained status, just so you know, changing it, or by leaving Canada. Okay, by leaving Canada, you're also adhering to the conditions because you're leaving the country if you do not have status. So if you want to maintain your status, you need to submit a work permit extension application before your current permit expires. Okay, so the only way you can take advantage of maintained or implied status is by filing a work permit extension application prior to the expiry of your current work permit. Okay, incredibly important. Now, you also need to make sure that you're eligible to apply for a work permit extension application. Okay, so you can't just do it just because. You need to make sure that you are actually eligible. Okay, you are then able to continue to remain in Canada and continue working. And as per the conditions of your current permits, if you're here on an open work permit or an employer-specific dependent, then those conditions will remain, okay, until a decision is rendered by IRCC. Usually, just so you know, a bridging open work permit, okay, this is normally what happens when somebody has submitted their full application for permanent residency. So remember, I'm saying submitted the application. So it doesn't mean that you're in the pool and waiting for an invitation. It means you've received your invitation and you have submitted the full application for permanent residency, and you have received an acknowledgement of receipt or an AOR. This is what then opens the door to allow you to file your bridging open work permit application. Okay, so you cannot apply though for a bridging open work permit if you do not have an acknowledgement of receipt. So if you do not have an AOR for your permanent residency application. Okay, so just bear that in mind. Make sure you check the requirements for a bridging open work permit to make sure that you are eligible to apply. Okay. One other thing to bear in mind, if you do lose status, okay, so let's say your work permit expires and you haven't done anything, you do have a 90-day grace period in which you can do something, okay? So you can apply to restore your status to a visitor, for example. So just look at what the options would be, but you do have a grace period. It doesn't mean you have to get on the next flight. Other work permit options, labor market impact assessment, okay, LMIA. So this, it's a great opportunity, but this is an employer application. So an employer has to file an application. They have to advertise for your position. They have to show that they've been unable to find a Canadian for the position. And only then, if this application is approved, can they offer the job to a foreign worker, i.e. yourself, and you can then get a work permit. Okay, so important to know that this is an employer application. They need to pay $1,000 per applicant, and they need to prove that they cannot find a Canadian for the position. At the moment, these are taking about 4 months to process. Okay, so these are not quick. Okay, and they have to advertise for a month beforehand. Okay, again, you'll then get an employer-specific work permit. Okay, there may be an option for you to get another IEC. If you're lucky enough to be from Northern Ireland, you have you can have both an Irish and a British passport. Well, both of these have IEC programs. So if you've already had one IEC under your Irish passport, for example, you can then apply for a second one under the UK. Okay, so there's also recognized organizations, SWAP, Step West, for example. So you can contact them and see if there's any options, if they have any spaces as well. Okay, they do require fees, so bear that in mind. Global talent stream, again, if you're in a tech occupation and your employer has submitted an application of the global talent stream, then this can also allow you to apply for a work permit. Okay, so again, very occupation dependent and as per your employer. Okay, international mobility, again, perhaps you are in a very specific occupation, you're going to offer significant benefit to Canada. This could be an option. You can look at intercompany. These are all very limited and they're very employer and occupation specific. Okay, so very case by case. Francophone mobility, again, we go back to French. If you're educated in French or you speak fluent French and you have the test results to show it, then your employer can offer you a position, must be outside of Quebec, okay, can offer a position, and you can then get a work permit via the Francophone mobility program. If your spouse has a valid work permit and is currently working in a skilled employment and their work permit has more than 6 months left on it, you as their spouse are eligible to apply for a spousal open work permit. Study permit, this could be an option, okay? Again, you must study at what's called a designated learning institution. These are all listed on IRCC's website. You can do a degree, a diploma, certificate. Have a look and then see, because this will also then allow you to get a post-grad work permit afterwards. So it's going to allow you to study in Canada, get a Canadian qualification, get a post-grad work permit after, get more work experience, and you can then apply for residency. You'll have more points, okay? Downside, of course, international fees are expensive. So that's the only real major downside there. But it could be an option for you, okay? So just have a look into that if you wish. Visitor, again, you can change your status to visitor. This will make sure that you maintain status in Canada. But again, you'll be here as a visitor. You will not be able to work. You cannot access healthcare, okay? And this is not automatic. You don't automatically become a visitor. You have to apply for it, okay? That can be a struggle financially. Of course, there's not many of us that are going to be able to, afford to live without working. So you have to take this into account. You must not work under the table, okay? This is illegal work and you should not do that. Or final option, of course, should you just go home? Sometimes you do have to look at this as a potential option, okay? Because if you're unable to work, you're unable to support yourself, maybe you should go home, get some more skilled experience under your belt. And bear in mind, you're still going to be eligible into the Canadian experience class if you still have that work experience in Canada in the last 3 years. It's okay if you leave Canada and you go home, okay? You're still going to meet those requirements and you will still be able to be in the pool. You will still be able to get invited through the Canadian experience class. Okay, so I hope that helps. I just hope I've been able to clarify a little bit about things that you can do whilst you're, stuck in the express entry pool right now, waiting for the government to make some decisions. Hopefully, fingers crossed, there will be some more draws soon. We will have more Canadian experience class draws. Please, I hope we have some federal skilled worker draws. We have people all over the world waiting for these. So, follow us on social media. We're going to post any updates there. Hopefully, there'll be some good news soon. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.